I would like you to start. What is your number 10?
Again, these aren't in no particular order, just because I was like
Okay.
off the dome. But
Hmm.
a film I absolutely loved, and it's only now starting to get a little bit of attention. I needed it to be more. Twinless. I love that movie. I love that
Hmm.
movie. James
Yes. Yes.
as a director, James Sweeney,
Hmm.
I really am interested in his take, his point of view, the way he kind of portrays these things. And specifically, I really love the way he does women in his projects as well. So many times,
Hmm.
women, especially in queer projects, get touted as like, the nagging hag or the
Hmm.
jealous one, or she's just so clueless. She doesn't have a clue like what's
Hmm.
actually going on. And I find that
Right.
he goes a long way to give agency to these women. She was one of my favorite characters, the one played by Ainsley, and Dylan
Hmm.
O'Brien. Amazing performance,
Oh my
amazing
goodness.
double performance. I thought that
So good.
he was able to portray the two different characters so differently and so lovingly
Hmm.
and so real. I told Chris Perfetti, I was like, you're only in there for a few seconds. But dang it, you're the one who brought everything to a head, and I'm here for it.
Right. Yes. Yes. No. Okay. I'm gonna save my thoughts on that because spoiler alert, it's showing up. We agree on that.
Nice.
But my number 10 is a movie that you had as one of your least favorites this year. No
Hmm.
Other Choice. I really responded well to this movie. One of the things we were joking about after we saw it, and like I said in my review, was like, if you've ever tried to find a job or tried to look for a job,
Yes.
you'll empathize with this movie in some way. I do agree with your sentiment earlier that you said about like, how murder is a bit too morally suspect to kind of forgive.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know that director Park is trying to, have you want to forgive him. I just think
Mhm.
the point is for you to understand how dire he feels the circumstances are,
Right.
and how he is really really just scared of losing himself and who he is ultimately. And but it's wrapped up in this, overwhelming, like, oh, I need money to survive, every all everything anti-capitalistic we love.
Exactly.
um, and so all of that really just kind of rang true for me, and I, because of how crazy the story got and how it, turned into this, how is he, not necessarily how is he going to get out of it, but like, oh, he's really going there. I just thought it was really creative and fun, and like, I yes, he is like, killing these people, but I think one of the other things that's really smart is that um they're very good about adding the human layers to the people that he's, wanting to kill.
I can see
It's
that.
not that he's, going after people that are deliberately like bad in society or whatever. He is going after ultimately random people, but the only thing that connects them is that they're all trying to get this one
His
job.
way.
Um, and right, and so, and they're in his way, and so he then, though, through this process is confronted with, like, at the end of the day, these are people that are trying to find jobs too.
Mm.
These are people who feel like their worth is being snatched from them because their industry is falling apart and it's moving to, technology and all this stuff. But then, he has this, like, I need to look out for me too, which I think is something that a lot of people in this job market can empathize with as well. Very, very interesting satire. I think I docked points because of the AI artist that's listed in the credits, like we mentioned earlier. And like I said, still no answer on that. It's fuck AI over here. So, but so No Other Choice is my number 10. I did right. But yes, my number 9 is Twinless. um,
Yes.
I echo everything that you said. This was the movie when I mentioned earlier that there was another surprise, but I was gonna save it for now. Um, I missed this movie at Sundance because it was like so popular, and then when it hit the online like platform, people were leaking scenes out of it, and so it got taken off of the they were, and they took it off of the platform after like one day. And so my friends that had a virtual ticket for it, and we were planning to watch it together, when we found out it got taken off, we didn't watch it. We were like, ah. And so I didn't get to see it until it came out in September, and so I saw it with that friend, and we were both just completely floored. I was like, this movie's so exactly me. I love it so much. I'm like, James's character, I can't remember his character's name. Is it James? Whichever his name is, but I was like, I feel him so deeply. Like, we are all hot messes who want someone in our life. That is it. And I think what's great about the story is that, like, you know, both of them are kind of on that same path of like realizing that ultimately they do need another person. Like, yes, what's Dylan O'Brien's character's name? It's his isn't Dennis. Roman, yeah. And so like Roman, obviously he was a twin. And so like he had a built-in person. And so because of that, he never kind of had that realization of like, you know, I need this other person here, because he's always had it. And Dennis is interesting because he's almost never had that other person, and so he has this really desperate need for another person. And I just love the pairing of the two of them together, and I love their relationship as well. Like the scenes where they were just like call each other, go to the grocery store. Like I just thought, oh my goodness, it's ultimately a very heartbreaking film. But it's so sweet, and it's so, and once the main kind of twist happens, I almost don't want to spoil it just in case anybody like wants to see it. But once the main twist happens, first off, gagged me. I was like, oh,
I know it's
I almost didn't see it coming. But that was one of those movies where, like earlier when I was saying, you know, how is this person going to get out of this situation? That's how I was feeling with Twinless, and I just love that a film can get me so wrapped up in it to where I'm like actively anxious and stressing for the character. Like, not even like, you know, oh, the film is making me go through all these emotions like a sassy movie. Like, it's like I am just feeling for this person so much. And so I really, really, really love Twinless. That was like an immediate 5-star watch. It was almost higher on my list, actually. I think when I first made my first draft, it was like number 5 or something.
If I had done the order, it would have been 1 or 2. Like it's far up there for me. I adore that movie.
Yeah. That's so fair. What's your next one?
So we talked about this a little bit, but highest to lowest. I love that. I love Spike. I thought was interesting about this film is it really shows. I think that Apple was like, "Hey, Spike, we're gonna let you do a film, and you can literally do whatever you want." And it was like, okay. And like, it's such a love letter to New York. It's such a love letter to hip hop and to music. And, you know, one of my favorite things about Spike ever is that dolly zoom shot that he does. He does it in every film where, you know, you have the person and like they're still, then everything is moving around them and they're moving closer. And he did it this time, but in such a really exciting way for me. And it was the first time like 2 people were involved. And I
the split screen.
Absolutely loved it. I love him and Denzel. I think that they can read each other in a way that brings out a fantastic performance. I loved ASAP on there being himself, basically. And of course, beloved, who I overstand, Jeffrey. Right. Because there were so many times where we're like, oh dang, like maybe like he wasn't like, oh no, like what's the deal? And they're like, nah, homie, that's his boy. That's his
brother. Yeah. No, I really, really do like that movie. I mean, I'm such a Spike fan. I really think Jeffrey Wright, I think, is my favorite part of that movie. Even with as good as Denzel is and as surprising as ASAP is, and their two scenes. The scene with Denzel and ASAP, the rap battle. Oh my god, I love that scene. I love that scene. When I rewatched it the other day, I just, oh my goodness, she's like, I got the full pounder right here. Don't tell me nothing funny. my goodness, I just love it.
living.
But no, it's so much fun. I think Spike's movies are just so fun. But I also think it's really strong because at the end of it, it's ultimately a story about fathers and sons. And
Yeah.
I think that is something that Spike understands very well. And I think like his strongest scripts, like, are, focused on those. Like you look at Crooklyn and like He Got Game. On that same note, the scene with one of the scenes of the film for me is the scene with Denzel and the actor who plays his son.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember his name, but where he like curses at him.
Yep.
And when Denzel gets real stern, I love that scene is all one take, but I just think that encapsulates what the story is about,
Yeah, we were like, whoa!
Like
Cute. You thought she was
like,
brand
oh, right, exactly. No, and that I think encapsulates how great Denzel's performance is in the film. That I just think centralizes what the film is about and like that relationship. Oh my goodness, I think that movie's so much fun, and I love the original film, and I think it's a great like new kind of adaptation.
I don't know if I've seen the original, so let's go.
Have you seen High and Low? It's fantastic. It's a Kurosawa film.
Oh,
But yeah. And on the same note, Denzel and Spike have this like the actor director relationship that I do think mirrors Kurosawa and Toshiro Mifune in a lot of ways. And so I think that Denzel on that note was a great casting choice.
Yes.
Just because like the power that I think both him and Mifune like carry on screen is just like so amazing, and especially for that character too. And I just love that story. Yeah, no, Highest to Lowest is great. It almost made the top 10. But I just I had some of my others. What is your next?
Thunderbolts.
Okay.
Was very pleasantly, now not entirely surprised. I love Florence Pugh. I love her in everything. But you have this Marvel film which people are already kind of on the verge of fatigue from, and I didn't necessarily have expectations going in, but I was just like, whatever. Dave Harbour, Florence Pugh, can't too much go wrong, And then it ended up being a story about grief and about depression and about just kind of how do you make it through each day? How do you reset your life? It just had all these other conversations in it that were handled so beautifully and so well. And I thought that it was a perfect little entry into the MCU. Being a film, it kind of reminds me of the opposite of like what the Deadpool films were, where it's like, because people were like, oh, Deadpool and Wolverine, it's it's the first MCU one, it's going to have all this weight. And it's like, no, they're ending out the Sony era. They're saying goodbye to it. This is the last one. They're going to act a hot mess. And that's exactly what for it. And so, but I kind of feel like the opposite for this Thunderbolts, where it's like, we're bringing you into the MCU. If you've seen Black Widow, if you saw that series, or if you saw oh god, the one about the shifting, anyhow, if you've seen those, then you have a good idea. But here we're going to introduce even more about them. And I think that it was a really good decision to kind of take it seriously and flesh out these really dramatic sequences while still keeping the kind of lightheartedness of a superhero movie. So I was really, really pleased by that.
Yeah, no, I think that was probably my favorite Marvel project that came out this year. But okay, my number 8 is Frankenstein.
I was going to ask you about this. Okay.
I am a Guillermo del Toro fan.
Yeah.
I think he's a great director. I also just love him as a personality. Every time I've been to an event and he's there, every time I've like heard him speak, he's just like seems like the sweetest guy, and also just the most passionate like artist. Like I just think he's great. And I really think that shines through in Frankenstein. I think a lot of a big criticism I've been hearing about it is that at least the way that it's shot is very conventional. Like it doesn't have a very distinct style as far as the cinematography goes, which I understand in a lot of ways. But I don't know that the cinematography is always what has stood out to me about Del Toro's films. It is the world, it is the
Right.
characters, it is the feeling. He loves a he loves a pan and camera. He loves to just kind of drift throughout a room,
And I'm like, "You're
which
making
is
me do
very very
there." But yeah.
typical, very easy way to get coverage. But what I get wrapped up in is the texture of everything
Yes.
and how everything feels so real and the costumes are so intricate and the production design is amazing. I like every single film of his. The production design is just absolutely stunning. Like I genuinely am just so I can't remember. I think I can't remember his name. I think is it Osterberry maybe. I don't know if he has the same production designer for everything, but I think this is the same one from his last few projects. I also think like Jacob Elordi's performance is one of my favorites of the year and very surprising to me as well. Yeah, I cried. I was crying at the end of this movie, and really, really didn't expect it. Like kind of what you were saying about Thunderbolts, how it ended up being a story about grief and depression and all these unexpected things. I knew that at its core, Frankenstein was about like being human and kind of coming to terms with that and what does it mean for that. But I just think the way that it's explored and just the softness with which it's discussed in the film, I just think is so beautiful. And I mean, also like it still looks good, even though the cinematography is like a basic quote unquote. But I still think it looks great. The final, I don't know if it's the final shot. It might be like the second to last shot, or it's like the behind, the monster, the creature, when he's like standing on the ice with the sunset and everything. I'm like, inspired. But no, I really think Frankenstein was a beautiful film. I really enjoyed it. I'm like a huge Nightmare Alley fan. Like I'm like one of the people that's like singing that movie's praises. So, I'm like that's how on board I am with with Del Toro. But
I love Shape of Water is my GDT film.
mhm,
That is my
mhm,
film.
yeah.
I'm very visually sensitive to anything that's like gross. And so
Mhm.
people love, his other works and I get it. And I was like, yeah, I can't stomach a lot of what I'm seeing. However,
Mhm.
like you were saying, the thing that he can do with textures and
Mhm.
giving their skins depth to the point where it's like
Mhm.
it flows so smoothly. Also,
Mhm.
Jacob Lordy was in one. It was highlighted last year, but I think it didn't come out till this year. But it was on Swift Horses. He is really taking some chances, and I love, love, love to see that from him. I think that he's another one that could really show up dramatically. I think,
Mm.
oddly enough, we just need more of him right now. He really needs to kind of put himself out there and be like, this is who I'm trying to be, and these are the kind of projects
Mhm.
I'm trying to be in. So,
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. I think he's fantastic. I mean, and Oscar Isaac is great too. But Jacob Elordi really is the story of that for me. And
yeah.
also just the context of like him not being the original person that was cast. It was supposed to be like Andrew Garfield or something.
Interesting.
Yeah, but
Interesting. I love hearing stuff like that because I don't think that would have worked. I think you
no, yeah,
need
and they've Guillermo del Toro has spoken about this in interviews because people have asked him like because it was kind of last minute, like it was a matter of like weeks, I think, what that he was there were at least weeks to when production was supposed to start, and that's kind of why the design of the creature is a bit more. I don't want to say basic because I feel like that demeans it, but it's not as like it's more simple. But it's just because they had to design basically a completely new monster in a
interesting.
shorter in like a matter of weeks. But he the way that he phrased it I think is great because he's like talking about how accidents kind of always happen on film sets and like but he's things that happen are meant to happen and all of that and
Mhm.
so he's like Jacob ended up being the right choice at the end of the day. He's like I don't, and not in a way to shade Andrew Garfield or like talk badly about anybody, but he's just like ultimately it worked out in a way that's even better than what I would have theorized and
you can have
imagine.
actors that are fantastic, but that doesn't mean that they're right for every role, and
Yeah.
that is a great example of having two actors who are amazing, but one that was right.
Yes. Yeah. No. And I'm so curious as to what Andrew Garfield's choices would have been for that. But
yeah,
so that's my number 8. That's my number 8. What's your next?
So next, I'm going to say Dead Man's Wire. Gus Van came out during most I've ever heard Bill Skarsgård talk in my entire life.
This is really Yes. No, I was like, I don't know that I've ever heard his real voice like this before. Like,
and I mean, that's not his real. But I was shocked. I was like, oh, like you're doing complete sentences and not being like you're being extremely. And
bring that to me. Like it's not that.
I almost said Alden Ehrenreich. That's not his name. Billy. What's his name? Not Lachlan.
Montgomery from Stranger Things.
Dacre.
Dacre.
Yes.
Dacre. Yeah.
Billy. So
yes.
I couldn't stand Billy, but I always knew that he had something in him, and I was really curious what we were going to see next from him. And so I thought that he did such a good job. I thought that one thing about Gus Van Sant is he understands how to create a dynamic between two characters or two male characters specifically. He understands how to craft a friendship and Good Will Hunting. There's nothing necessarily or overtly queer about that film, but it does have a lot to do with male intimacy and really just kind of like platonic male friendship and love and representing that in a way that's not misogynist and it's not toxic, And so it's almost an enemies to friends kind of where, they kind of go with a respect at the very least one another, but that's something that has to be crafted throughout the entirety of the film, and they do such a great job of putting that together. Apparently, when Gus got the script, in the script there were links to different reference items of that time. And so I asked the PR company, I was like, can we get a copy of that script? So I think they're actually sending that along because I'd love to see that. But they incorporated footage from the actual, kidnapping and just, it was so beautifully done, but very simple. And, it's two guys in a room for the most part, but they did it in such a way where it remained intriguing. And my God, Bill is just a powerhouse actor. And I'm really glad to see us get more range from him and him still just firing on every cylinder.
Yeah, I enjoyed that movie. I did. I think it comes out in January, no? End of January? Yes. Yeah. Yeah, shout out to Dead Man's Wire. My number 7, another movie that you did not like, The Testament of Anne Lee. I'm sure you're waiting for it to come out.
Tell me, baby. Tell me what you like.
What I think my enjoyment of this film boils down to is 3 things: Amanda Seyfried, the music, and the musical numbers.
Oof. I'm like agree, disagree.
Yeah. I think Amanda Seyfried is amazing. I think her performance really runs that movie. There's a scene where she's like in jail, and she's like, it's a song that she's singing, but it's just like kind of one long take, and it's her, and it's like this really like quiet song, but it's so beautiful. And I remember like when I was watching the movie, that was really the scene where I kind of like sat forward and I was like, am I going to like love this movie? Like I genuinely, so I did like The Brutalist. I do think The Brutalist is a really good movie, but I wasn't the strongest fan of The Brutalist that everyone was. So, my expectations for this movie were set from my
Yeah.
experience with that film. I came out of this movie liking it way more than The Brutalist, simply because I think I like the character of Ann Lee more than Laszlo Toth. I think I understand what you mean about her being just like kind of crazy at the end of the day, and her being a bit of a cult leader. But I think what I come back to is I saw an interview that Amanda Seyfried did, where she was talking about like the point is more just to kind of understand what happened to her that put her in this position, and not necessarily like not more meaning to push what she was saying. I think the core of the film is to understand that she had these miscarriages and then was driven to this manner of thinking to prevent people from having other miscarriages because of the pain that she went through. And I think that is a very important piece of the story to kind of understand and to kind of really latch in on enjoying this film, because I'm always skeptical of films about like people that are not quote unquote good people, or that that have these weird ideologies, and I'm like, is this film trying to push that? Is it or is it like straight out demeaning it, or is it like trying to and I think I was going back and forth with that through watching the film, but I think I more, like I said, because of that aspect of her story, I think I sit more with it's just trying to get you to understand this woman. And I also, on the musical numbers tip, had no idea what the music of the film was going to sound like. Like I had seen a trailer, and some of my friends had seen it at like Beyond Fest, and I knew that it had musical numbers in it, but I didn't know if it was going to be like straight out singing, or if it was just going to be like dancing, or if it was just going to be whatever. But I found myself to be like really moved by the musical numbers. I don't know why. I think because I'm not a shaker, but I think in most or any right. I think in most or any circumstances of when I see people like just expressing themselves in any way, any kind of form of religious or cultural expression, I just think moves me in a very strong way. It's like when I see like Polynesian folks like doing like haka like dances, and I'm like crying, but like I have no connection to this whatsoever. Not to say that Testament of Ann Lee was making me cry, but I was like, I am really feeling and understanding that these characters are having this kind of experience, and I can connect with that as somebody that grew up in church. And I understand when the Holy Ghost catches you. I'm like, I understand, like I understand and fully get what all that means. And so I think because of that, I was just really just kind of enraptured by all those things. I also I don't know, I'm a sucker for any kind of choreography or dance sequence in any kind of movie, and so just the fact that it had them in it, I was like, this is already like something that is completely unique.
I will say there was one lady who was making her rent, her car payment, her insurance payment. I don't know who she was, but they said action and she said, hold my beer. Excuse me. Hold my glove.
Right. I found myself to be really moved by it. And like I said, that one scene of her in jail and she's singing that song, I was like, this is her Oscar clip for real. Like I was watching it, I was like, she needs attention for it. I really, really, really think that she's amazing in that movie.
My next one, we talked about Kiss of the Spider Woman and how much I loved it, but I am going to throw in. So there was a comedy earlier in the year with Tim Robinson and Paul Rudd called Friendship. I loved that film. It's so stupid.
Oh my goodness.
It's so stupid, but it's so fun. It's actually funny. Like you'll see a lot of these where it'll be like smart, funny, and you'll be like, oh, that's hilarious. But then you have those ones that are just so silly that you can't help but just like start cackling. And
Right.
Tim Robinson's delivery has always been on that line. Like there's a line
Hmm.
where you just go off the rails and you're just so annoying and I never want to see you again. And he
Right.
rides the edge of that line so well where I'm like, this is brilliant. Like you can tell, even though he's
Hmm.
acting like a buffoon, he's put a lot of
Right.
thought into this character. And
Yeah.
so there were so many beats in Friendship. It's instantly rewatchable. I had a really good time with it. So yeah, that one's on my list.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed that movie as well. That one I think almost made my. I have like an honorable mentions for the honorable mentions list,
Yeah.
and it was on that one. It was on that one. My next film, my number 6, is Wake Up Dead Man. I really, really like this movie. I liked Glass Onion when I saw it. I think I would
Mhm.
even say I really liked it when I saw it, but I think over time it's just a movie that never stuck with me. I only saw it one time.
Mhm.
And I only cared to see it the one time. And I think that was something that was more. This one I think probably has the most like, like intellectual complexity to
Yep.
it.
Yep. Some of those
Because like,
speeches.
there's the religion element, and then just like, from a theological standpoint, like I'm sure it's you could crack into that even more. But I also just think Josh O'Connor and Glenn Close, I think, is probably my favorite performance from any of these Knives Out movies. In this movie, I really, I mean, I love
Yeah.
Glenn Close, but I was just really, really struck by her in this movie. Josh Brolin also, I
Oh,
think, is
amazing.
great.
He's killing it this year.
He is. Kerry Washington. The ensemble is great. I think part of it. The first one is a level of iconic that I don't think
Yeah.
many films recently that have come out recently will reach, except for a few. So I'm not gonna put
Yeah.
it up there on that level, and I'm not gonna try to equate it up to that. But I really do think this is an incredibly strong ensemble and almost rivaling the first one. I do think people were talking about how Mila Kunis is like kind of miscast.
She did great, I
And
thought. I
I
liked
thought she was good. And also my thing about people saying that people are miscast in original stories
Mhm.
makes absolutely no sense to me,
Yeah.
because I'm like, there's nothing to base this character off of for her to be miscast from.
Mhm.
Like, so I'm
They're
like,
playing up a
for all that
stereotype.
I'm like, this character could have been developed with her in mind.
Yep.
And so then it's like, yeah. But so I really enjoyed all of the characters. I really enjoy the tone of this one because it's a lot darker than the other ones. But I really think it works because, like, it's a murder mystery, somebody died, but it's like, it's got this real eerie vibe to it. The flashbacks I think are so creative because they use colors in a much more interesting way this time.
And the lighting.
And the
The way they
lighting,
use the
yeah.
lighting is amazing.
Kind of reflecting that like stained glass window from churches and stuff. And then also, keeping consistent though, it's very Ryan Johnson with his like, warping memories and like, what's real and what's not.
Yep.
I thought the mystery was really fun this time. I do think the resolution gets a bit convoluted towards the end. Because this movie, it's almost 2.5 hours long.
Mm.
And so, once things start getting explained, it does get a little bit like, okay, where we're going.
Like,
It is
okay.
twisty, but I think it's like all of the twists are like confined to the last 45 minutes, and so it just feels like so much is going on in the last 45 minutes. But I still really liked where it ended up. I think I was able to kind of guess who did it, but I think what's great about these movies is that it doesn't hurt the experience. The one thing that is consistent with all the films is that you're kind of like told the answer pretty early on.
Right.
Like there is always a much earlier than expected like reveal that ends up being the actual
thing.
truth. But it's just the journey of how to get there, and then also can you trust the answer that you get and all this kind of stuff, which I think is so creative.
One thing I think that people kind of forget is Glass Onion is really a pandemic film. And that
Mhm.
is what it was referencing. The idea of it's very specific part of time. It is
Mhm.
very ephemeral. It's not necessarily supposed to like stick with you. It is
Mhm.
just this thing that represents this very specific point of time. There's a lot of shallowness involved, and it
Mhm.
really is a like a caper, just something where it's like, we got to get
Mhm.
through this to get to the next thing.
Yeah.
And I think that the tones are so different, but it's important because they're meant to be. Because I really,
Mhm.
really liked Glass Onion, and
Mhm.
I love that there it was a little lighter, but it still
Mhm.
had meaning and it still had things. Whereas
Mhm.
I really enjoy Wake Up Dead Man for the opposite reason, because it is very heavy handed on the idea of morality and spiritualism
Mhm.
and what role
Yeah.
does it play in your life, and that kind of things. And so yeah, I love the way that he approached all of these in a way that is different, and so it's like you don't get the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah. 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 He can make like 8 more of these. I
Oh
wouldn't
yeah,
care.
I'm
Like I
ready.
just like I'm, I'm so ready for all of them. I know he wants to take a break and do some other stuff, and that's fine. He did put 3 out
Sure,
in a
Ryan.
row, but exactly. Like we can, come on. I know you got some more cooking in there. My number 5
Mm.
is Bugonia,
Okay,
the
that's
Yorgos
on mine too,
Lanthimos,
so we
Emma
can go at the same
Stone,
time.
Jesse Plemons. Yeah, that's your number 5.
Yes.
Okay, all right, that's real. That's real. So we can talk
Or well,
about this
yeah,
together.
it's on my list, but yeah, yeah.
Oh, it's on your list. It's on your list. It's on your
But
list. Okay, well then
basically, it's
I'll.
5, so it's
Okay,
fine.
yes.
I was
I
okay. Go ahead.
no. I was just gonna say and I've talked about this on the podcast before. I reviewed this as well in the last episode. Um, I have a back and forth kind of hit or miss relationship with Yorgos for the most part, but this movie Bugonia I think might be my favorite of his, or at least right under Killing of a Sacred Deer. I think it's so much fun. I love the story. I love the satire of it all. It is a remake, and I haven't seen the original, but I am curious to. It's a sci-fi film from 2003 called Save the Green Planet. It's a Korean film, and in that the style of satire is very Korean. It is very anti-capitalist and very consistent with a lot of things you see in satirical Korean cinema. But I think transposing that to the current American corporate system, I think works in so many ways. The only aspect of the story that I didn't really care for was the stuff with the cop who like was his old babysitter.
Yeah,
That just sat kind of weird. I think
it
it was
felt
it's the
really
totality of
disjointed.
everything.
Yeah.
And so that's the only thing that I would kind of push back on with the film. But as far as everything else, as far as the performances, the score, I love the score. I love the way that it looks. I think it's so funny. Also, I was like laughing my ass off watching it. I really 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 enjoyed Bugonia.
I Aiden Delbus. He was the cousin. I loved him so much. And it's funny because I knew exactly kind of like what was going to happen. Just because, not because I had any spoilers or anything, but just because, like, I knew it was based on a Korean film. And also, that was the
Mhm.
part where, Ish was about to go down. So,
Mhm.
but I thought that Emma was fantastic. I loved that it really did kind of keep you guessing until like the end. Like, is she? Is she
Mhm.
not? What's going on? And
Yeah.
I loved especially the story it told about the idea of susceptibility, the idea of
Mhm.
like self-fulfilling prophecy, where you're like, oh, I'm doing all of this so I don't die, but then the steps that I put in place are going to lead directly to me, making this happens. Yeah, beautifully shot, absolutely gorgeously shot. And I especially loved, we went to this Q&A and the composer was there. And he said, Yorgos didn't tell him anything what it was about, but he said, think of like sci-fi agricultural horror, something like that. It was just really like kink or something, whatever. And he was like, okay. And then he just makes this amazing score to go to it. So yeah.
Yes, I think that movie is so great. I took people to see it the second time. I was like, you have to see this movie. What's your next one?
My next one is going to be Hamnet. That movie, talk about a movie that is good, but becomes great because of the last scene of the film. When I tell you, tears, just ugly crying. And now, mind you, I love Chloe Zhao anyway. I love Jessie Buckley. That is my queen. I adore Jessie Buckley.
Yes.
But like, you know, we were going through the film and, you know, like, you know, the beats were there and, you know, you have this whole kind of wild women can't be tamed, witchy woman of the earth kind of aesthetic to it. And I absolutely adored that. But when we got to the end and you get that moment of her realizing that she's not alone, that she's not a single mother in a marriage. You know what I mean? Like that she's not the only one kind of going through what she's going through. Man, let me tell you, I said, this movie is everything. I will watch it 5 more times. I really, really appreciate that film.
I've seen it 3 times.
Nice.
It's comforting in a weird way for me.
It's cathartic.
But it's, oh my goodness. That movie. Anyway, we'll talk more about that later. Give me one more. What's your next?
I'm gonna say Sinners. Sinners.
Okay.
Definitely top. I've seen that movie so many times in so many ways and love it. I love, of course, the culture vulture allegories and the race allegories, but I also love the idea that it is like a vampire movie and that we get Black people in a vampire movie that's not Blackula or a vampire in Brooklyn. Yeah. Those are classic, fantastic films. But when we're talking about something that's a little more mainstream and accessible, I think it does a great job of being accessible, but also being very specific to the culture. The idea of them not specifying that Annie was Gullah and that she, you know, this is part of what she was speaking and the roots and that kind of stuff. They didn't really say it directly, but it made it so I was like, oh, let me do some more research. Let me see what else is like around this. And it made me really want to look into that time period and kind of what was going on. Not because I was like, vampires are real, but what was happening in their lives that this was the deal, that they were like, oh no, you can't come in here, you know, and they had to kind of be tricked. And the fact that it was Mary that got them kind of hemmed up, and then later Grace, you know, and of course the music scene in the middle that goes to like the generations, amazing.
Yeah, when the juke joint turns into the club.
And Michael B. Jordan and Michael C. Jordan doing probably one of his best acting jobs to date.
I think so. I would agree. I am gonna hold off on Sinners because it's definitely coming up later, but I love that movie. My next is One Battle After Another.
Okay.
I mentioned before we got on the mic that I've had a roller coaster of like thoughts with this movie because I do love this movie. I do think it's a fantastic film. I think though, as I've seen it 3 times, and it was weird because so the first time I saw it, I was like, this is great, but like all of these Black people are very clearly written by a white man. Like that was my first kind of read of it. I was like, this is a white man's perspective, very clearly, and it's so clear in the first like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Like kind of Tiana Taylor's portion.
Like, come on.
Yeah. Well, and so here's the thing though, and so I and this is me explaining my roller coaster. I had those, at least that was the core basis of my thoughts at the first time. And then I was kind of going through the film in my head before I saw it another time to kind of figure out what some of the choices might have been, like why some of the choices might have been there. And so, like, Jungle Pussy is an actual rapper, and that is her stage name that she uses in real life. And the "This pussy don't pop for you" is a line from a Jungle Pussy song that is called "Pop for You." And like, all these little things about, and like, little like deliveries from Tiana Taylor. I was like, these are pretty clearly like improvs from her, and like, all these things I was trying to figure out, and like, be like, why might these things be in here? I was giving a lot of leeway to it because I had liked it so much. I was like, let me try and rationalize and figure out why, what might not be wrong with it. And so I think through like the second and third time that I had seen it, I was with that a lot more. And I was like, it's Paul's, white perspective, but like, that's saved by the fact that Leo is the protagonist, or Leo is who's like, eyes are kind of who we're in his eyes in the story. And so it's not like he's centering a perspective that he knows nothing about. He is including a perspective that he doesn't know anything about, but he's not centering a perspective that he doesn't know anything about. And so that I was like, okay, it's not as big of an offender because of that. And like, he is married to Maya Rudolph and he has a mixed race daughter. And so like, that relationship was clearly very personal to me, and that had shown through. And so all of these things rang true, and I was like, this movie is like so great and so good. And then I found myself at a party and got into a very, very long conversation about this movie, and about the Black characters in the movie. And we had just gone back and forth about, him ultimately just not having an understanding of Black women. And I remember one part which kind of stuck with me. Someone was like, in the scene where she's crying and having this breakdown about like, oh, he doesn't love me anymore, he gives the baby more affection and all this and everything, we don't even see her face.
Yeah.
We're not even with her when she's, having this very, at least in terms of the text of the film, important conversation about like, the postpartum depression and how it is all kind of wrapped up in her decision making, at least at this time. But it's like you have this like this distance from her. It's like she's literally behind the wall, and you're watching Leo react to her. And so their whole thing kind of just became like, is it fair to the Black characters in the film that the center and focus is kind of on Leo when their characters are so like such a driving force in the story?
Well, it begs the question, who is the lead character, or is this ensemble? And I think that
Right.
there is a lead character, and that character is Leo.
Leo, and I think also Chase. We're following Leo's perspective, but Chase, I think, is the engine of the story, or at least, and it's what makes the film work so well. And so it just comes back to what we were talking about earlier about white people writing Black people, and as good as like the movie might be, or as much as you might enjoy the film, it's like at the end of the day, like it's still like a Black character that is written by somebody that does not have the personal experience to fully understand the nuances of that character.
Well, what's so interesting is, well, listen, I'll say this: between Noah Baumbach, Christopher Nolan, and then who did The Last Duel? His name is like
Ridley Scott.
Between those three, if they never had to cast a Black person in their lives, they never would. And I think we're getting to the point where Black people are like, fine. Because when you cast us, when you do center us, it is pure shenanigans. It's Tenet. It is, Don Cheadle and white noise. It is just all of these things where you're like, oh, you don't really understand us at all and don't care to find out. So, okay, thank you for the message. I'm still watching one battle after the other, but I noticed in like the first few times they kept being like, oh, you like Black girls, you like Black girls, you like girls, and I'm just like, they're women. Like, these are grown women.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we saying, do you like black girls? Like, do
Mm-hmm.
y'all have that type of camaraderie? And I was like, was there a single black person in this room? And what it does is, because then you have him casting these black actresses,
Mm-hmm.
and these black actresses have to make a decision. Am I going to do this as is on the page and just do my job? Or am I going to demand kind of like a little more, maybe authenticity, or, am I going to add in these ad libs? What am I going to do? Because unfortunately, we are still in a place where one black performance informs every other black performance. It's
Mm-hmm.
very hard to be individualistic, even at this stage in the game. And so far, my issue with this has been the idea that there was a thing where they had like the black guy with the white woman, and I was like, it's very interesting that like, you just knew that, like, oh, of course, this they had to
Yeah.
put that in. But I think that people don't understand what that is consciously. I think it's just subconscious. It's like, well, if you have one, you gotta have the other. And it's like, no, not if you're trying to
Mm-hmm.
focus on this one thing. And so
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I just felt that there was a lot of people were calling it out for fetishizing. And I can understand that to a point.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I don't necessarily think that is the case, because
Yeah,
that is something someone brought that question up to me pretty directly. They were like, "Do you think the movie fetishizes black women?" And I was like, "I think that the characters in it might. Like Lockjaw definitely does, but I don't think that the film that we're watching, the text that is presented, is fetishizing those characters."
I don't think it's fetishizing, but I do think that it is black women save the worlding them.
Mm,
Kind of putting them in this position where they are the ones doing the labor, doing the work, and then also taking all of the blame, all of the, kind of thing where it's like, yeah, oh, black women are going to save this world. And it's like, no, we don't want to. Like, get someone else
yeah.
to do it. We're done. We've told you what you need to do. You didn't listen.
Hmm.
We're done. And I think kind of perpetuating that, being like, oh, she's a strong, hard black woman. And it's like, we don't
Hmm.
need to be portrayed like that all the time.
I think what is interesting in centering Leo's character is that ultimately he doesn't do anything. And ultimately he's not the cause or any kind of he's not the cause of anything good or productive that happens.
He really
um
is eyes, He's the
mhm,
audience's eyes in that point of view. And from that angle, I understand the idea of, this isn't necessarily how, black women are, but this is how he sees them. And
mhm,
that has its own kind of connotations to it. But I think I
mhm,
could be a little more on board if that were like the thing. It's
yeah,
you know what it is? It's that whole thing of when people used to say that they were colorblind, like, "Oh, I don't see color. I'm
mhm.
colorblind." It's like, of course you see color. And I'm like, I'm not
Right,
asking you to be colorblind. I'm asking you to be color appreciative. I need you to
right.
understand that my experience is colored by my color. And you
Mhm,
saying that you don't see it is disrespectful, honestly, because you're just saying that you don't see something that impacts me in a major way on the daily. But it is one of those like early stage whiteisms where they're like, I'm trying to be an ally. I'm trying to show you that your skin color doesn't matter to me. And it's like, no, I don't want it to be negative to you. I would
mhm,
like it to matter because, it's a part of who I am, but I don't want you to
right,
automatically then expect the worst just because of it. So yeah, it feels like
mhm.
it's kind of in that weird little quarry.
Yeah, looking at it through that lens, it might seem like I have like so many like problems with it. I do think that is a core issue of the film.
Yeah.
But I think like we were talking about Rental Family and how when you said you hated Rental Family, but like on its face, it is it's cute and sweet. This movie again on its face, I do, and also before I say that,
Mhm.
everything about this movie that doesn't have to do with Black people, I think is amazing.
That's what I was just about to say. Yeah, I was like, the story on its own is actually really cool. And I like that they tried to make it more diverse by adding Black women. I just think they may have gone too far in the wrong direction. Like, no, they blackity black. They black y'all. They black y'all. And it's like, oh, okay,
They're
okay.
revolutionaries,
Right.
and like they recite this revolution will not be televised every time they see each other, and it's like
Listen,
okay.
but I did 1,000% cackle when they let you know that the daughter was raised by a white man and have because she was like, "Oh, there's a quinoa and cornflake casserole." And I was like, "Girl, get out of this house."
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God.
But no, so yeah, like all of everything about even as much as I don't like Lockjaw's character because of his
Oof,
character,
my
I think,
goof.
but I think he is a very interesting antagonist because again I think that's a perspective that PTA can probably tap into a little bit easier, and I also just think a lot of the set pieces are just fantastic. Everything with Leo and Benicio, I think, is
Yep,
great. Chase Infinity, I think, is amazing in her
she's so
performance.
sweet. I love her.
I was talking or talking. I posted on my Instagram story about this recently about the supporting actress race as far as this film goes.
Mhm.
Um, Tiana Taylor is like
Yeah.
who's getting all of the attention for all of it, and very deserved. I think it's her time. I am more of the mind that her character is more interesting than her performance, or just like her character, at least how it relates to the story, is more interesting than her specific performance. But as far as supporting actress performances in this movie, I think Regina Hall is amazing. So fucking good. Like genuinely, I mean, I love her just as an
She's
actress,
great.
as a comedic actress, she's fantastic. But
She can do it
I
all.
think about the scene at the dance when she
Mhm.
shows up to
Ah,
retrieve Willa,
I
and
love
just that sheer just like how you can feel your stomach falling just with every every time she's like calm down, this is happening, this is serious. Towards the end there's a scene where they're in a convent and there's she doesn't have any dialogue in the scene, but
oh,
some of the best eye acting
I love
that I've seen in any film this year. I was really struck by her performance, and I think her performance is just all the more surprising because it's against kind of what we're at least used to. Like, I mean, obviously she's done like Master, and I'm trying to think of any other dramatic stuff she's done. But I mean, and so like we know she's a great actress, but I was really really struck by her performance. I think Tiana, I was struck by as well, but like I've seen 1001, like I know she can act.
exactly. That's what I was
Like,
just about to say, yeah.
yeah, and I'm like, not that I didn't think that Regina Hall could act, but this is really, I think, something completely different than what I've seen from her. Everything technically about the film, I think, is fantastic.
Yeah.
The way that it's shot, I love the score. I love the score. This is a great score year, I think.
I'm not so impressed by the score just yet. It does that weird, like,
Mm,
piano plinky jazzy thing, and I'm like, "I
yeah.
don't know."
When you get
But
to the car chase
okay.
scene, when you get to the road chase, that's another part of the film that I just think is like top tier, like and just
Mhm.
from as far as like PTA's filmography and films this
Yeah.
decade, that sequence is yeah. But no, so I think on its surface, I think when I look at my list, I more evaluated how I felt about the film, at least on the surface, and on the
Yeah.
surface, I think it is so immensely enjoyable and so well composed. If you look another layer deeper, that's why there was a tweet that I saw that was like they were like one battle after another is great if you don't evaluate PTA as a serious political filmmaker,
Fair.
and
You know what?
and I
Fair.
think that
Fair.
is the best way to put it.
Mhm.
If you're not evaluating the how the politics of the film exist in real life politics, then
Cute. I
it's
love
great.
it.
My next one, my number three, Marty Supreme. I'm sure you're waiting on it. I know you're waiting on it.
Yes.
I what you said about any goodwill kind of coming from the movie is due to Timothy Chalamet. I think that is like about 85% true. I think
Mm-hmm.
he is why this movie works so
Yes.
well. Because I
Agreed.
think without a performance as charismatic as his at the center, I think a lot of the cracks would show a lot more. A lot of the overwhelming similarities to their other projects, a lot of the, issues with a lot of the supporting characters, the women, people of color, all of that I think would be so much more clearer and so much more on display if there was not this powerhouse of a performance at the center by Timothy Chalamet. I
Also, I
also
don't think
think
anyone
of
told Tyler, the creator, it was a period piece, and I'm not mad about it. I,
right, right. Yeah, no,
oh, vintage cars, cool, but
right, right, cool. But so and when I evaluate Good Time, Uncut Gems, and Marty Supreme as kind of a trilogy. Um,
mm-hmm.
and when I look at those projects, this I think Marty is probably my favorite character of all of them as
I
well.
can see that. Yeah,
Um,
agreed.
because
Actually,
I think that a part of it is because of how young he is. I think I think his youth and like the
honest.
eagerness that he has, I think really is reflective of a lot of people my age. But I just love that he has that like silver tongue aspect to him, like
Yeah,
more so than I think the other characters did, because that was one of like Adam Sandler's problems, was that he would always like fault, like at least that character, is like he couldn't like he could, but he was always like falling over himself trying to explain himself.
yeah,
Marty can get himself out of any situation,
yeah.
um, just by
Sometimes
talking to
to his
someone. And
detriment, but yeah.
right, yes. But I'm like that. I feel like that's just that's so much. That's such a much more interesting character to watch, I think.
Mhm.
I love the style of everything. I love that it's an 80s movie set in the 50s.
Yeah,
I love like all
that's
of the
funny.
supporting
Yeah,
cast. I think Odessa as Ion is fantastic. I think Kevin O'Leary also as a sleeper, like other favorite supporting performance. I think he's great. It's so funny. I think I was talking about how I watched Good Time recently, and I noticed, I was going to say this earlier, but I noticed that Marty Supreme is actually a lot closer to Good Time, um, tonally and story wise than Uncut Gems. One of the things that I noticed about Good Time, I was like, where's the rest of the movie? Like, Good Good Time felt like so much of it was missing, and
yeah.
I say this to say I love that Marty Supreme feels full
Hmm.
as a movie. Like it doesn't feel like there's any dead space. It doesn't feel like there's anything missing. Um, he goes on all of these side quests and all these tangents, and people have said like it kind of overcrowds the film or whatever. But I love the supporting characters in this film. I just
I
think they
actually,
add so
I
much
love
color
the
to the
thing with the
story.
dog and
Yeah, like when the oh my god, when the bathtub fell through
oh
the
wow,
bat.
yeah. Oh, a
Oh my
lot,
goodness, it's
but that
such
was.
it's such a stressful film. It's so anxious, but it's like I was so enthralled and I was
Mhm.
so like in it. I also like in as charming as Marty was, like I was like low key like really into him. Like I was like I would like I would fall for it like too. Like I get it. Like, oh my goodness,
That's
but no,
funny.
yeah, I was just that movie was like a magnet to me. I don't know. I really, really, really like the movie, and I got a chance to see it early, and I was like the only person that I knew that had seen it, and so I was like, I was like, please, somebody else see this movie,
Oh my
or I was
god.
like, I need to try to see it again if I can't talk to anybody about it. Like I was just like, oh my goodness. But no, I've seen it twice. No, yeah, I like I said, I love the character that is just overeager, sometimes to his detriment, sometimes to other people's detriment. Um, and it's just a lot more enjoyable this time than say in like Good Time, where like he very clearly has like some racial bias. Like
Yeah.
this time he does too, but I think they're a lot more subtle about his prejudices in this film. And so that's why I think, and part of like what when we were talking about earlier, though a lot of their protagonists are subscribe to whatever ism you might pick one, somebody's on that list. I do think, at least in this time, it plays out in the most interesting way to me, particularly with Odessa's character and like the black eye bit. I thought was, because at first I was so worried. I was like, how are we getting away with this now? I was like, is she just going to be like the tragic? But then, she's slaying him. And then it turns into this, like, she ultimately is just really in love with him, and she's kind of more similar to him than he wants to admit, and like, all this kind of stuff. And I thought that was a very interesting way to subvert that, from my point of view perspective. And it was kind of crazy when he was doing all that with Gwyneth Paltrow in the middle of the night. I'm like, she's
one day review, and I'm ready to throw it all away. Like, this
like, oh my goodness. But no, I don't know. I was really enraptured by this movie. Like I said, I think magnetic is the word. I was just drawn in by Marty and Timmy, Marty Supreme, Christmas Day. Okay. All right. What is your last?
My last
your
one.
Favorite? Is this your number one, or is this just the last one of your list?
Not my number one, but it's also very high on my list. This might be like my 4, my 3 or my 4. Because I think it's like sinless Twinless combo. Imagine that matchup. That would be fun. And then Hedda is in like the 3rd or 4th. Now, Hedda has its issues. However,
I thought it should have been gayer. I'll say it.
It was pretty gay. Especially
it was
material. But I know what you mean. Imogen Poots, God bless her. I love Poots. But she has a way of doing that, like glassy-eyed, in trouble. Like, I always think of her in Vibranium, the one with Jesse Eisenberg.
I think Vivarium.
Yeah,
Vivarium.
I love her, and I love her look, and I thought she was so perfectly cast in this. And I love Nina Haas, although I do love that they're like, oh, you're German, we'll make you look like a Broomhill with the outfit. I had known about the source material one, and it really did kind of give, woman on the edge, and she's crazy, and blah, blah, blah. Match is insane. And I love that this take was more like, she just refuses to be tamed. She is misunderstood, but she does take advantage of people, but she owns it when it comes up to it. I really, really loved that her race was, again, a part of it, but also not like the main issue with her. Like, there was a lot.
Right.
And I especially love Tom Bateman, because Tom Bateman has a habit of playing like the most tragic love figures that he can. If he's not killing someone, someone's trying to kill him, or someone he loves. And it'd be an extra. So I was like, perfect. Yeah, be this guy. It's very melodramatic. It's very like, like, I don't even smoke, but I feel like I should have one of those really long
one of the long cigarettes in a holder, right?
Yeah. Like, I just feel like it's an event film where you just want to dress up with a boa and just watch this night descend into the chaos that is coming. Like, they tell you from the opening scenes, oh, this is about to be messy. But I think Tessa Thompson gives Hedda such she understands Hedda to a core that makes everything she does, you understand why. You may not agree with it. You may say that's the dumbest thing you could ever do, but someone like you would make that decision. And so, in order to portray that, you have to fill out that character. You have to know that character and then be able to present her to everyone else. And so, yeah, I thought, and of course, beautifully shot. I love that time period and kind of that era of things being new and modern, but also so vintage. It's so old. So I really adored that film. I had a great time with it.
Yeah, no, I liked Hedda. I liked it. I didn't love it, but I did like it. Shout out to Tessa, the Golden Globe nominee. Yes. And shout out to Nia. But my final two, my last two, I feel like if you've been doing math, you can figure out what they're gonna be. My number two is a film called Hamnet, which we've discussed. I love this movie. I think I've already added it to like my all-time favorites list. I genuinely was so floored by this movie. It reminds me of my grandmother in a lot of very specific ways. And so and she's like my favorite person ever. And so the first time I saw it, it was like I couldn't even think about crying until after it was over. Until like it cut to black, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, just like cracked open, like my heart and everything. And so then it was just like tears flooding, like
when I tell you, I was like, oh my gosh, I reached out to the thing and then he looked back. That's why I was looking back. And I'm like by myself. I'm saying this to nobody, but I am just bawling.
Oh my goodness. No, the first time I saw it was like a tiny press screening, and I was sitting in the front row, and I was like, oh my God, I hope nobody's like looking at me, because I was like, I need a moment alone. Like I went back to the car to like drive home, and I couldn't even talk for like 10 minutes. Like I was like, I'm just sitting here thinking. That movie, like you said, it's very cathartic. You said that word earlier, and we said that when I reviewed it on the last episode. It is so well performed. Jessie Buckley and Paul Mescal, I think, are just amazing in it. And all the kids too. Jacoby Jupe is oh my goodness. No, there's the part when he's like, I'll be one of the players with the sword, when they're like in the backyard, and like, oh my God. And so each time I've seen the film, I think I've cried more and more, because it's like obviously like what's coming, but as you start to realize and understand the layers of foreshadowing that's in the script and story, actually it just becomes so much sadder, because you just realize all these little lines that are thrown in there of like the bit about two children at my deathbed or whatever. And then like I said, the part where he's like, I want to be one of the players with the sword, and then he is ultimately at the end. And that just, oh my God, that just like rocked me. And just all of these little tiny things, and all of these little things about the performance too. I love that, as far as like how it's directed and shot, I love that so many of the scenes are like one take, and like static shots, or at least so many of the really like emotional dramatic scenes, and that they don't like cut into stuff too much. Particularly there's the scene where Will Shakespeare is leaving the first time after their child dies, and she's like so angry, and she like almost like hits him, but then he just like hugs her, and he like has to like almost like fight her for her to receive the hug.
And the fact that sets up the ending so beautifully, it just all comes back around. It's all connected. And the cinematography on that was absolutely gorgeous too. Those bright, verdant greens, and when she's giving birth and like goes to the tree, and you're just like,
goes to the tree,
like it's just lush and it's nature. You can tell it is her element. And so
I love how wide that shot is. To kind of show and emphasize how intrinsic she is to the nature, and how it's like she's so completely okay and more comfortable being enveloped by,
Moss.
this wood and this moss and this grass and everything. And I just, oh my goodness, the scene with the funeral for the hawk, when she's like whistling and she's like, look, did you see him? And oh my, I'm getting worked up right now. No, oh my God, I love that movie so much. I think it's so good. I'm like, I honestly might need to rewatch it soon.
I know, right? I was like, God damn it.
Oh my goodness. But no, I love Hamlet. And here's the thing, I'm not even that big of a Shakespeare nerd. Like I really am not. I've read Hamlet, but like, I don't have that strong of a connection to it. Like I love The Lion King, but like, that's about as far. And so I came into this with not I love Chloe Zhao. She's probably one of my favorite working directors. I love Nomadland. I was one of the Eternals fans, one of the 3 people that liked it. Me and you.
My only thing with I said it should have been a series, not a movie. That was my only question. It should have been a series and not a movie.
Yeah, it was just too many people to focus on in one film. But I think a lot of it's great.
But God dang it was gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah, it was so gorgeous. But I was moved by that film. Moved to tears, like, and moved in that way, to that emotion more than any other film that I saw this year. My favorite film, though, I think is a film that moved me in a completely different ways, but like moved me to the point of like, those films where you're like, your love for movies is just like reignited after seeing it, and it's like, new and interesting things do exist. That's how I felt watching Sinners. I think that's how like almost everyone felt watching Sinners. But and it all comes back to the scene in the middle where the juke joint turns into the club. The first time I saw that movie, I cried watching that scene. Tears came down my face watching that scene, and it is not an emotional scene at all. But
no,
it is, but it's not a traditionally emotional scene. It's not like meant to make you cry. Like it's club music. It turns into like twerking involved. But I had not in my at that 21 years of life, I had not seen anything that looked like that in my life. I had not seen anything that meant anything like that in my life. I had not seen anything like that in a movie like that in my life. I think the choice to include that scene and to include that aspect of the history of Black music to the story is probably the smartest decision of Ryan Coogler's career. Because I think it almost single-handedly like turned him into one of my favorite, not directors but writers. I think that story is so like it's so singular and so like so unlike anything I've ever seen. Like I'm like, I just off of that alone, like I was like, there's nothing that's gonna be more different and more new and more fresh and more like,
even the idea of, because I talk about this a lot. I said Black people generally don't get a lot of nostalgia in terms of like a pinup girl. There aren't extreme examples of Black pinup girls because they just didn't exist. And the idea of having like a vampire film, something that's just so classic that not only includes Black people, but focuses them on more than, oh, well, they're the smart ones that got away, or they were the first victims who were killed. It's more about centering this kind of cultural experience under the lens of vampirism. And it's another reason why Jordan Peele is such a big name, because he took situations and he took that horror genre, something that people just didn't really associate with Black people, and said, oh no, we know fear better than anybody. So
right. Exactly.
And, I really like that he found a way to bring in something that is even just the time and place, American history, honestly. but with a lens that is that doesn't sanitize. The idea that
Mhm.
that Bo and Grace have two stores across the street from each other, and one is the white
Mhm.
only store and one is the black only store, and you can tell by the way that each are presented and the
Mhm.
way that it's set up. There's so much thought put into the design, into
Mhm.
the sets, into the costumes,
Mhm.
the way that they
Mhm.
differentiate between Smoke and Stack, having that
Mhm.
bright, like that deep, deep, rich blue and that bright,
Mhm.
bright, fiery red. And
Mhm.
just everything. The idea of having someone like Annie, someone like Woomy being a love interest, and rightfully
Mhm.
so, but then, like, some people try to give them flack, like, oh, she's not sexy enough, yada, yada. And I'm like, no,
Mhm.
like, that's what,
Right.
like,
No,
Woomy's
yeah, like that's she's that girl.
but also being able to, like, just really really kind of put together this package and say this is something that we can all enjoy, but it is for us. You know what I mean? I think
Mhm.
that that is sometimes something that gets lost, is people don't look at horror movies and think, oh, well, this isn't for anyone else, this is for white people, and they're the ones who are going to be. We end up having to make ways to be included. It's almost like anime, the whole thing, that
Yeah,
of where it's like you have to kind of find an entry point. Whereas I
right.
think that this was created to be an entry point that everyone
Mhm.
can enjoy.
Yeah, no, this Sinners is generational. I think is going to be one of those films that really stands the test of time.
Yeah.
For so many ways and so many reasons. But as far as like this year and like awards, I really, really hope the Academy isn't on their usual bullshit and does the right thing. It's so we were talking a little bit earlier about how it's we just have one black movie. The Oscars loves their one black movie rule, or at least that's what I call it when I wrote a screenplay about.
Nice.
But I think what is so interesting is that we've almost never been in a situation where the one black movie is like the big one, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'm very, I'm almost like 2008, like Obama
Exactly.
hopeful, you know?
Like life had changed. Like,
you know, like, oh my goodness, is this what it feels like? But outside of it, the Oscars has their own prejudices, and it has so many things working against it in the Academy's eyes. It being black and a horror film. But I really sincerely hope that it is given the credit that it is deserves,
yeah.
that it is due. I just think this movie is amazing for so many different reasons. I've seen it, I think, 4 times, probably the most of any film this year. And I've heard like Ryan Coogler speak about it too. I think probably the most recent time I saw it, and that was very enlightening, just in talking about kind of the creative process, because he was talking with a lot of the department heads, and so they were talking a lot about how there were different versions of the film. There were about like 4 or 5 different cuts that were all like different lengths,
Interesting.
and like
Yeah.
they tried a 90-minute version that didn't work. They were like, the 90-minute version is the only version of the film that didn't work. They were like, there's a
Mhm.
3.5 hour version that like works, and they were like, every other length we tried worked, but the 90-minute one, the editor was like, don't put my name on this. And how like the at first he said the monster was going to be werewolves, and then they you know adapted it to vampires after doing more research, and like all these things. And so it was just really interesting to hear that, or at least to hear his perspective on that. But no, this film of the year, I think, and I don't think there's going to be much backlash to to saying that. I really really
Yeah.
sincerely think that Sinners is the film of this year, is my favorite film of this year, and is the end of our conversation.
I know.
And the end of this discussion. We did it finally. Thank you so much, Stacey, for joining. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much for
for
being
having
here.
me.
And thank you so much for listening, listeners. If
Mhm.
you would like to follow me on Instagram, you can follow me at OTR with Andrew. If you'd like to follow the podcast on Twitter, you can follow me, or you can follow it at the OTR Andrew Pod. If you want to follow me on Letterboxd, you can follow me at AndyMike1209. That's ANDYMIKE1209. Stacey, do you have any socials you'd like to plug?
Yes, I am mainly on Instagrams at Sticky Keys, STICKYKEYS. On TikTok, I'm at Sticky Keys 633. That's where I do most of my heated rivalry commentary. I am on Twitter, Sticky Keys, and I'm on Letterboxd, but I don't remember what the thing is. But I'm also on Rotten Tomatoes, Stacey Yvonne. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
check me out.
Yes. All right. Well, that's it. Thank you.
Yay.